Good evening, everybody, or afternoon, I guess, depending on where you are located in North America. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that we had a lot of registrants for this webinar, but a lot of people like to register to be able to get the recordings. So rather than wait to see if more people come, we're just going to jump right into it and talk about how magnesium can help allergies, both environmental and food allergies. So I'm going to dive right into the presentation. I'm just going to share my screen and make sure that you can all see the slideshow. Wait a minute, I didn't share. Okay, so magnesium and allergies. So this presentation might get a little bit technical, but I'm going to try my best to keep everything understandable so that we can all understand what's going on. And I also must apologize. I do have young kids and we got our wires crossed a little bit about what was going on this evening. So you might hear a bit of background noise, but they're going to do their best to stay quiet so that you guys can all hear me. So magnesium can help with allergies in a few different ways. But before we talk about allergies, I just want to give a little bit of background on magnesium, because if you understand a few things about magnesium, it will be easier for you to understand why you might need magnesium or why you might be deficient. So a large amount of the population is deficient in magnesium. So about 50 to 80% is estimated of the global or average deficiency of population. So it really depends on what country you're in, and then obviously it's very individual for each person. But you know, even the low estimate of 50% of people being deficient in magnesium is very high. Magnesium is a common deficiency because it's depleted in our food, and it's depleted in our food partly due to improper farming practices. So it's just not in our soil like it used to be. So therefore it doesn't go into our food, but also due to improper cooking techniques. Now, these cooking techniques can be even food that we home cook ourselves that we're not quite preparing correctly, or soaking, or cooking in certain ways. So it either causes the magnesium to run out of the food or run out of our body without being absorbed. But it also comes from eating convenience foods, which are largely devoid of magnesium. Less than 1% of magnesium in the body is found in the blood. So a standard blood test will not indicate low magnesium in the body. So if you get your blood done regularly at the doctor and your magnesium is not low, that's great, because you really need a good amount of magnesium. You need that 1% in the blood. But when we talk about magnesium deficiency, we're not talking about what shows up on blood tests, because most magnesium in the body is found in the soft tissues, which is not as easy to test for. So we often go by deficiency symptoms. Now, why is magnesium so important? Well, magnesium is needed for about 80% of biochemical reactions in the body. So 80% of what the body does is magnesium dependent. So if you don't have enough magnesium, a lot can go wrong in your body. Two things that are very important to allergies in this presentation is that without magnesium, then you don't have as good immune health, and magnesium also helps lower the body's histamine levels, which is extremely important in an allergy. So those are, you know, just two really simple ways that magnesium helps our body. Now, just a little note, we did do a webinar on immune health a number of months ago. If you weren't part of it, I would highly encourage you to check it out. You can find it on our YouTube channel. Our handle is ITL Health. Magnesium is an extremely vital nutrient to the immune system, and most people don't realize how important it is. So if you're looking for some good immune health, especially in today's climate of viruses, I highly recommend that you check out our magnesium webinar and learn about why you should be supplementing with magnesium. So there was a study done on magnesium and allergies, the most conclusive study, and the summary is that magnesium deficiency leads to characteristic hyperemia, an increase in IgE, neutrophilia and eosinophilia, an increase in the level of pro-inflammatory cytokines, mastocyte degranulation, histaminemia, I always say that word wrong, histaminemia, and I always say this wrong as well, splenomegaly. Splenomegaly, that's how you say it, splenomegaly. So if you're anything like me, you would read that, all that what I just said, and say, what? What does any of that mean? It seems like magnesium deficiency obviously plays a lot of role in allergens, but like, what exactly does that mean? So we're just going to go through some of these terms and explain what exactly that means when it comes to allergy symptoms. So we'll start with characteristic hyperemia. So this means an excess of blood in the vessels supplying an organ or another part of body. So it's just too much blood in the vessels. And so why is this a problem? Well, this is because it leads to symptoms of swelling or changes in the skin color, which are common symptoms of allergic reaction. Oops, sorry. Studies show that lack of magnesium can be a factor in this happening. So when we get these allergic reaction symptoms, swelling, changes in skin color, that's because of characteristic hyperemia, and lack of magnesium can cause that. The next term, immunoglobulin E, or for short IgE. So an increase in IgE levels is noticed in low magnesium as it relates to allergies. So IgE is an antibody that's found in the blood that's a marker for allergy diseases. So people who have higher levels of IgE have environmental and or food allergies. So when you have an allergy, your immune system overreacts and produces the IgE antibodies. And since magnesium deficiency is connected with a higher amount of these immune cells, it's clear that magnesium helps control this part of the allergy response. So you don't find as many IgE cells in your body. So then that means that you don't have as strong of an allergic reaction. So there's neutrophilia and eosinophilia. Neutrophilia are the first immune cells to respond, and they boost the response of other immune cells. So they basically start the party and say, hey guys, we need to get to work here to deal with this invader. Xenophilia are immune cells involved in the triggering of inflammatory responses in allergy disorders. So high amount, again, like the IgE, a high amount of eosinophils indicates an allergic reaction. So again, since magnesium deficiency is connected with a higher amount of these immune cells, it's clear that magnesium helps control the allergy response, because when you have lowered magnesium, you don't find as much of these cells, which means that you're not you're not reacting to all of these allergens. So next are the cytokines. So cytokines are small secreted proteins released by the cell that have a specific effect on the interaction and communication between cells. So obviously we know that the cells need to communicate to be able to, work properly in the body and go to work to fight invaders or do everything that the body needs to do to keep us healthy. But then there are pro-inflammatory cytokines. So pro-inflammatory cytokines are involved in the process of pathological pain and can cause susceptibility to both asthma and allergies. They can also be a factor in those struggling with rhinosinusitis. So rhinosinusitis is when both your nasal cavity and sinuses are inflamed. It differs from sinusitis. Sinusitis is just your sinuses, but rhinosinusitis is when both your nasal cavity and sinuses are inflamed, which is much more common. Usually both inflammation goes together. And low magnesium has also been associated with recurrent sinus infections. So you can see how important magnesium is not only to this whole allergic response, but asthma and sinus and nasal passage health. So if magnesium deficiency causes an increase in these inflammatory cytokines, we can see that this contributes not only to susceptibility to allergies, but also issues with the sinus and nasal passage, which can be a factor in the allergies, but it can kind of be a bit of a vicious cycle, because maybe you have an unhealthy sinus and nasal passage, so you're not breathing in properly, which causes you to react more, or you're reacting more, which causes your sinuses to be inflamed. But either way, magnesium can help act in these areas. So mastocyte degranulation. So this is essentially, to really summarize it, is the release of histamine. So when a mast cell encounters an allergen, it will release histamine. And as we know, histamine is what gives us the horrible allergic symptoms, such as mucus production, redness, inflammation, itchiness, and other signs and symptoms of allergic reaction. So basically, if we can control the histamine in our body, then the allergic response is much more easy to deal with than if we don't have the histamine response. So in the same token, histaminemia is the presence of histamine in the blood. Very simple. So this also relates to the mastocyte degranulation because histamine would obviously be higher in the blood because the immune cells released the histamine. And so then what does this mean for this magnesium? Well, as the study says, low magnesium causes an increase in mastocyte degranulation. And so it means that low magnesium is connected to higher amounts of histamine reaction in the body. So put another way, magnesium can help lower that histamine response. And again, the histamine response is what makes allergens so unpleasant for us. So magnesium is a key player in lowering that uncomfortable response. So my favorite word, splenomegaly. Splenomegaly is just a fancy word for an enlarged spleen. So there's lots of things that could cause an enlarged spleen, but food allergies is a very common one. So it's not always that allergies are going to cause an enlarged spleen, but if you have an enlarged spleen, food allergies is commonly a cause. So this begins to show magnesium's ability to help food allergies and not only environmental allergies, but also to show us how it can help food allergies, which we will touch on a little bit later. So magnesium can also really help lung function. So magnesium promotes bronchodilation and improves lung function. So magnesium is a bronchodilator, and this is because it's well studied. And if you join any of our webinars or hear me talk ever, I always talk about how magnesium can help relax the muscles. So the muscles in the lungs are no exception. So a bronchodilator is a substance that makes breathing easier by relaxing the muscles in the lung and widening the airways or the bronchi. So again, if magnesium can help the leg muscles, can help the back muscles, help the calf muscles, well, it can also help the lung muscles, which we don't always think about muscles being in our lungs, but it's very important that they stay relaxed because when they become narrow and inflamed, it makes it very hard to breathe. And then once magnesium relaxes it, it really helps open them up and improve that. So studies have found that low intakes of magnesium in the diet are associated with lower lung function. And what they consider to be lower lung function is that it's shown through airway flow rates, airway hyperreactivity, and increased risk of wheezing. So magnesium can basically improve lung function in all of those facets. So magnesium and asthma. Magnesium is a very important nutrient for asthma, partly because asthma has a factor in allergies and in lung health. So if magnesium can help allergies and lung health, we can see that it's a great thing for asthma. And there are a couple research studies that have some great summaries. One said magnesium should be considered as a prophylactic treatment in asthma. So in case you're not familiar with that term, that means disease prevention. So this particular study concluded, it's not good enough that if you have asthma, you take magnesium. It should actually be taken to prevent asthma in people. Another study summarized magnesium should be seriously considered in conditions such as ischemic heart disease, cardiac arrhythmias, and of course, asthma. So magnesium is a very important nutrient when it comes to asthma, which again relates to the allergies and lungs. So magnesium and food allergies specifically. So magnesium is needed for the body to make something called diamine oxidase. So it's commonly referred to as DAO, and DAO is one of the main enzymes for breaking down histamine in your gut. Okay, so you need DAO so that you can break down that histamine and it doesn't, stay intact and cause problems with digesting that food. And you need magnesium to make that DAO. So there's a very clear connection between magnesium and food allergies. And just to be clear, a food allergy is when you actually have a histamine response to a food. It differs from an intolerance. A food allergy is when you actually, you can have a histamine reaction to foods like an anaphylactic reaction. So there was a research study where rats were fed a magnesium deficient diet, which caused their histamine levels to go higher. Now, these histamine levels went high within 4 days of being magnesium deficient, and they peaked at 8 days. So it really didn't take long for these allergic symptoms to really hit the fan. And once they were given magnesium supplementation, within only 2 days, their histamine levels calmed down. So it really shows the power of how quickly things can go wrong when you're deprived of a critical mineral like magnesium, and how quickly they can start to go right when you take a supplement or when you take a good amount of that magnesium. Now, this specific study only talked about magnesium and food allergies and the way it relates to diamine oxidase, but there is something to be said that if histamines are breaking down properly in your gut, then you probably won't have as much histamine in your body, and then you don't have the seasonal allergies or the environmental allergies also wreaking havoc. An analogy I always really like to use is the garbage can effect. So if we think of our body as a garbage can, you can put something in it, and it's fine until you let it overflow. You don't empty it, you let it overflow. So that's sometimes what's going on with allergies is we're okay most of the time, but then you just add one more invader and your body gets all of these reactions. So sometimes with food allergies, you can handle them okay, or maybe environmental allergies, you can handle them okay, but when you put it together, then that garbage can overflows. So another way that magnesium can help allergens is that magnesium is really a good anti-inflammatory. So magnesium or inflammation can exacerbate allergy symptoms and exacerbate that whole respiratory response of the lungs and the nasal passageways, the sinus. Magnesium deficiency has been linked to increased mast cells. So the mast cells specifically shown in this study were in the small intestine, kidney, bone marrow, and liver. But regardless of where they are, mast cells are key players in the inflammatory response because they, just like they can be activated to release histamine, they can also be activated to release inflammation. So when you're exposed to allergens, if you have extra mast cells in your body, then you have more inflammation, more histamine. So again, inflammation can exacerbate that whole allergy symptom response, and therefore mast cells are considered to be key players in allergic reaction in both food and environmental allergies. So we want to have enough magnesium in the body so that no deficiency is causing increased mast cells in our body, which leads to inflammation and histamine. So a little note on magnesium and food intolerances. So there haven't been any research studies done on magnesium and food intolerances. So again, food intolerances differ from food allergies. A food allergy is when your body actually produces histamine in reaction to a food. A food intolerance is more that you can't digest that food properly. There might be a sugar or a protein or an enzyme in it that your body can't break down. So again, there's been no research studies done on magnesium with food intolerances, but magnesium does help with some things that can be helpful for food intolerances. So it helps with the reduction of inflammation, so your system isn't becoming inflamed while it's trying to deal with these foods that it's intolerant to. It helps with the production of digestive enzymes, which we need to break down foods properly to digest. And it also helps with serotonin. Now, serotonin is always thought of that feel-good hormone, and that's how we know magnesium helps depression and anxiety and sleep, because it boosts that serotonin. But serotonin also influences a few things in the bowel. So one thing it influences is bowel motility, which is how quickly food moves through you. If it moves too fast, you'll have diarrhea. If it moves too slow, you'll have constipation. It also influences fluid secretion in your bowels. So we need proper amounts of fluid in our bowels so that it can move out properly. Not too much, not too little. And the fluid secretion also is influenced with mucus. So we know that when we eat a food that we don't digest well, our bowel can be very irritated and produce more mucus. Serotonin can help with that. Serotonin also helps intestinal sensitivity, that feeling of being full or sore or tender, bloated, nausea, all of that. So serotonin is a very important nutrient for the digestive system. And lastly, magnesium can help with cramping, bloating, and constipation. So although these don't necessarily directly relate to breaking down the food properly, often food intolerances are just as related to poor digestive health as they are to the foods themselves. So magnesium can help with all of these symptoms that food intolerances might cause. So another little tie-in is magnesium in mosquitoes. Now, when you get bit by a mosquito, the swelling around the bite is caused by histamine. So the histamine increases the blood flow and the white blood cell count around that affected area. That causes the inflammation or swelling, as we've learned what histamine does. And then the mosquito bite will become itchy because the histamine sends signals to the nerves around the bite to drive you crazy. So can magnesium help mosquito bites? Well, because magnesium can help the histamine response, it can help the reaction of mosquito bites. Now, in my experience, I've seen it more help the overdone reaction of mosquito bites. So if you're the kind of person, or if you know somebody who gets the big welts when they just get a standard mosquito bite, you know, everybody else gets these little bites, they get these big ones. That is where magnesium can help, because it just helps control that histamine and keep it at bay so that the mosquito bite doesn't swell really high. So just a little bit anecdotally, I had a friend who purchased our Mag 365 Kids, and she was giving it to her son regularly. And we went camping together, and she just kind of remarked, you know, last year my son would get these huge welts when he got bitten by a mosquito, but this year that seems to have gone away. I wonder why. And immediately as I heard that, I said, I know why. It's because the magnesium is keeping his histamine levels down. So on that token too, just a little tidbit that you might read or hear or see that there's evidence that B1 can help certain individuals with mosquitoes. So it's mostly anecdotal evidence on B1. Any study that's been done has been very inconclusive. And so the jury is out whether B1 actually helps with mosquito bites, but bugs are attracted to certain smells that humans emit. And I think we all know that some people get bitten easier than others. You know, I can be outside, I'll get 20 bites, my husband will get none. So there's obviously, you know, a scent to me that the mosquitoes like, and, you know, lucky him, they don't like his scent as much. But it's said that B1 will change the scent of your skin so that mosquitoes don't bite you as much. So in my experience, I find B1 to reduce my mosquito bites. But again, the research is inconclusive. I would tend to think it's inconclusive because everybody has different skin chemistry. And so the B1 would change everybody's skin chemistry. So it's very difficult to get the proper control study at how many people it helps. But regardless, if you take a low dose of B1 before you're going to be around mosquitoes, it's not likely to do any harm, and it might just help you if you want to try it. So to summarize about how magnesium specifically helps allergies. So magnesium supports the immune system, supports all of those immune cells. And if you have proper levels of magnesium, you don't overproduce all the immune cells that deal with allergens. Magnesium reduces histamine levels in the body, so that helps our bodies not react so strongly to the allergens. And again, the histamine response is always what makes us very uncomfortable. Magnesium reduces inflammation in the body, and magnesium also improves lung health. So there are several ways that magnesium is very key to helping us deal with allergies, whether that's environmental or food allergies. Now, there are a few other supplements that can help with allergies. So one of the most effective ones I found is quercetin. Quercetin prevents immune cells from releasing histamines, which is kind of what magnesium does as well. As we saw, the studies showed that low magnesium caused the body to produce more histamine. So quercetin and magnesium can work really well together to prevent that histamine response. So they do act differently. So they are something that you can definitely, and I would recommend to take together. I always recommend that you start with one. And if you want to see some more improvements, then take another one. That way you know what's helping you, and you don't have to take all of these supplements and maybe only one of them is actually helping you. Vitamin C also acts as a natural antihistamine, so that's another nice one to add to the mix. And again, you can take vitamin C, quercetin, and magnesium all together to help control those allergic histamine reactions. Homeopathic preparations can significantly reduce allergy symptoms. It's not easy to just tell you which one to take because there's a whole bunch of them, and it really depends on what you're reacting to and what your symptoms are as for what homeopathic preparation you would take. So if you struggle with seasonal allergies, I would highly recommend you see a homeopath, because that can really help. If you find the right remedies, it can really help to reduce those allergic symptom responses. Or even if you just go into a health food store and ask kind of what supplements they have in homeopathic preparations, you can often get a big help. Another recommendation I would say is a nasal spray. So pure saline, which is just seawater, that can really help clear the nasal passages. But there are also some herbal sprays that can really help with the allergic symptom reactions. And if you're coming to us from Canada, St. Francis Herb Farm has a great herbal spray that really helps with allergies that you can check out. So a little summary about magnesium. If you're thinking about supplementing with magnesium or thinking this is something that could help you or a loved one. So not all magnesium is well absorbed. There's different forms of magnesium and different ways to take it. And unfortunately, some are not well absorbed at all. We've talked a lot in the past about magnesium oxide. Studies show that this has only a 4% absorption rate. Now, this is also a very cheap form of magnesium. So a lot of people say, oh, magnesium, oh, this one's, inexpensive. I'll take it. Then, it's always nice to be able to save money, but unfortunately, it doesn't absorb well, so therefore it doesn't work. Now, this is the only form that has been really specifically studied for its absorbability. But we do have a few different forms at ITL Health. We have our ionic magnesium citrate powder. So at ITL Health, we focus only on the best absorbed forms and formulas of nutrients. So Mag 365 ionic magnesium citrate is a powder. It's ionic, which basically means you're activating it in the cup because you add water to the powder, you see it fizz, and then it's ready for you to drink and your body can go right to work using it. Now, this would be different than a magnesium citrate tablet because when that's being created as a raw material, it's essentially activating and then they have to deactivate it in order to, encapsulate it or make it into a tablet. And then it's very hard for your body to reactivate that again. So the ionic magnesium citrate is the form of magnesium citrate you would want to take. And because it's a powder, it also makes it very economic. We also have our magnesium bisglycinate capsules. So these are a pure magnesium bisglycinate. As we know, they are the only ones on the market that are completely pure without any fillers, flow agents, or stearate or buffered with magnesium oxide. So this form is easy to take. It's in capsule form for those that prefer capsules over powder, and it also really benefits sleep because it is magnesium attached to glycine. So we do offer these two, and if you've been listening to this presentation thinking, oh, maybe I should try magnesium, we have a treat for you. We're offering 30% off for all of you listeners to say thank you for giving us your time and learning more about magnesium. We really believe in education and we really believe that knowledge is power. And so we love to explain to you the many ways magnesium can help in the body and why it really is a worthy supplement of your time and money. So the code ALLER30 is valid for 1 week. After that, it will expire, but you can use this code if you want to try our products or stock up on any products if you're already a seasoned user. So we just want to say thanks again. And if you would like a copy of the presentation or the references used, please email us at info@itlhealth.com. You can also go on our website and use the contact us form. You would have noticed that there were links at the bottom of all the slides that show where we get our research from. So we always use the research journals to make sure that we're only telling you tried and true studies, facts about magnesium that have been proven. So if you have any questions tonight, I'm just going to stop my screen share. And if you have any questions, please let me know. They can be anything about magnesium, anything about allergies and how they relate, or even if you have another question just about magnesium and how it doesn't relate to allergies, I'm very happy to answer the question. And I will say before or while anybody asks a question, a lot of people ask how much magnesium to take, and it is really individual. But the nice thing about magnesium is you can take it to bowel tolerance. So your body tells you when you've had enough by dispelling the magnesium through your bowels. Now you want to make sure that you have proper kidney health because your kidneys do filter the magnesium, but barring that, you just take it until your bowels become comfortably loose, and that way you know that you've taken your maximum. And sometimes you need more than others. You might need more magnesium during an allergy season to prevent you from reacting to the allergies than you might need in the winter when the pollens aren't floating around. Or you might need more magnesium when you go through a stressful time than when you're on vacation or something like that. So you do have different needs for magnesium, and that's where the powder comes in really handy because you can easily dose the different amounts. So we have a question here. How soon can you see improvement in allergy symptoms once you start taking magnesium? Great question. Magnesium generally stays in the body for roughly kind of a 24-hour cycle. So it's not something that stores. It's not something, obviously you need to, if you're deficient, you need to build up your stores, but you should start to notice symptoms improve within a few days. I would even think and hope within one dose. Most people notice a marked reaction with our supplement within that day that they're taking it because it's so well absorbed, I would say give it a few days before you say, okay, this isn't working or I need something else. But because magnesium doesn't, it's not fat soluble, doesn't stay in your system, you do need to take it every day in order to keep it in your system and working for the condition that you need it to work. And Mariana, thank you so much for the compliment. As you can probably tell, I love educating and I love magnesium and I love nutrition. So this is one of my favorite parts of the job. And of course, there would be no point in doing it if we didn't have our awesome listeners and our awesome followers and faithful customers. So I thank you guys so much for giving us your time and considering our webinars and learning with us. Anybody that registered that didn't get to join us tonight, the link will automatically be sent, and we will also put this webinar on YouTube. So if you have any friends that you think might like to watch it, you can either forward on your link that you'll automatically get, or you can listen to it, or you can direct them to our YouTube channel. Again, our handle is ITL Health. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon or evening, depending where you are in North America. And until next time, we would love to have you join us for another webinar. And also, if you have any specific requests on a subject you would like us to do a webinar on, don't hesitate to email us, info@ITL Health, or again, the contact us form on the website. We love to hear from everybody. So if you have any specific topics you'd like us to hear or you'd like us to present on, don't hesitate. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night.